Thank you for your prayers. Jesus, as our teacher, has two of the disciples come up and they want to have the special places. They want to be on his right and on his left. They want to be what I call teacher's pet. They want to be next to the teacher, sitting right with the teacher. And Jesus surprises them and says, the one who wants to be the best, the one who wants to be the first, must put themselves at the service of others. That the first will be the slave of others. And so to be faithful disciples of Jesus Christ, we need to be willing to be of service to one another, to be good stewards of everything God has given us. I've asked 3 of our parishioners if they would come forward and share what their stewardship means to them as they journey with us here at Sacred Heart. And I'm going to ask April Izzy if she would share with us first on her stewardship of time.
I'm putting on my 2-minute warning, so you won't have to sit through more than that. Hello, my name is April. I've been a parishioner here since, well, I started coming in January of this last year, and I made my conversion at the Easter Vigil, which was very, very special. And I see there are a lot of people who are going to be going through the same thing. Woo! I am a speech pathologist, and I'm lucky enough to have a vocation where I help people all day long. It rocks my world when I can work with an adult who's had a stroke and they can't speak and they can't swallow. And after working with them, they say thank you for the first time in months. Or they no longer have to live on a G-tube. They can swallow food because I went to school for this. And the first time someone says thank you to you, it takes you back and you never forget it. So my time during the day is helping people. After I was converted, something happened. Something magical happens to you. When you accept Christ and you accept the Holy Spirit, you realize we're all in this together. I used to pray when I needed something, and I loved going to midnight mass once a year, but now I try to make it to worship every day. I pray the rosary in the morning. I can't leave the house before I do it. And if I do leave the house before I do it, I try to find somebody at the nursing home that I work at, who's in their 80s or 90s and loves to say the rosary. And I sit and say the rosary with them. And if you have ever done that, I ask you to maybe donate an hour a week and get to know somebody in a nursing home and just listen to them. And when you're sitting with somebody who's said the rosary for 89 years, it gives it a whole different meaning. I'm now the assistant facilitator for the RCIA program here for the adults who are coming into the faith. And we have 8 disciples of Jesus that we're going to make for this Easter Vigil. And the time that I donate to coming and working with them and meeting with them and going to classes to know what to say to them, because how do you just share, other than, you know, the wonderful word of Christ? What I have experienced and what you've experienced are 2 different things, but we learn from each other. So, although our weekly homilies are where we learn, and actually quite great, learning from one another and giving the time for one another is probably the most important of the 3, no offense, gentlemen, but of time, talent, and treasure. Love and time go hand in hand, and we may not be Yo-Yo Ma, and we may not be on the Forbes 500 list, but we all have 24 hours in a day. And what it will do for your spirit to give back to the church and to your community stays with you for a lifetime. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm going to ask Rob to speak next because Chris was supposed to speak at 8:30, so I'm giving him 2 more minutes to prepare yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rob Callahan, and I've been a member of Sacred Heart for 11 years. I joined Sacred Heart when my son was born, and we wanted to have our son baptized in the church. Previously, I grew up in a different town. When I moved to Hopedale, I did not join the church immediately. When my son was making his first communion, and I had to come to class, and I said, I can't believe I have to go to class again. I went to CCD, I went to Catholic school, I put in my time. I shouldn't have to come back again. I found that I really enjoyed it, and I got to meet a lot of people. I got to meet Father Bill and really start to learn about the workings of the church. At that point, I decided that I wanted to give more time, and I decided to volunteer for the operations team, and I'm now the chairman of the finance committee for our parish. Before I did this, I really didn't understand how important finance was to the church, and I just looked at it as a pay-as-you-go. I paid for the show each week that I came. I threw in an envelope. If I missed a week, I didn't worry about it. I didn't come to the show, so I didn't have to pay. I wasn't an owner of the church. And I found over the couple of years that I've been doing this now that I really am an owner of the church. And I look upon my commitment that I make each year to the church as not only what I'm going to give, but how I'm going to support the church and the workings of the church. I used an example of parish nightlife one time, talking about making sure that you give regularly every week to the church. And I related it back to my mortgage on my house. If I go on vacation for 2 weeks and rent a house down the Cape, I can't call up Bank of America and say to them, I'm only going to pay you half my mortgage this month because I only used my house for half the month. The other half of the month, I went to a different house. I'm committed to my mortgage every month. I'm committed to my giving every month. I also commit to giving my funds electronically every month, so that way I know that my money is here every single week and the parish can count on my funds being here. I do have a couple of slides for you. Unfortunately, I'm the boring one with the financial side of things. So, Larry, if you want to put the first one. These are some of our expenses. We run a very lean parish. We have 2 full-time employees, Pam and Melissa, a part-time maintenance person, and Father Bill. It's the only people that we have on our payroll. But with that being said, we do have some expenses that we do need to cover every year. Some high-view ones, payroll is $108,000. Our musical is $13,500. Supplies, about $51,000. We have a couple of wild cards in there, heat, snow, so please pray for El Nino to give us a mild winter, and we can save some money in that area. Utilities are the maintenance on our rectory, etc. I'm not going to read each one down for you. I will just point out one other one, and I can never say the word right, so...
Cathedratical.
Thank you. Is the tax that we have to pay to the diocese. We pay 30% of all of our income to the Worcester diocese. So we do pay about $21,000 a year on that. This all adds up to about $362,000 with our income projected this year to be just about $299,000 based on last year's giving. So that gives us about a $60,000 deficit. So what I'm going to ask all of you to think about and hopefully to commit to next week when you bring back your cards is to increase your giving by 20%. And we have a chart to show you what the 20% looks like. If you're giving $5 a week right now, we're not asking you to go to 20, we're asking you to go to $6, $7 to a little bit more than $8, $20 to $24. This chart is also on your commitment card. So I ask that you do think about it over the next week. Think about how your expenses are at home. Please consider electronic giving and think about how you are an owner of Sacred Heart Church and not only a member of Sacred Heart Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. And Chris.
I am not a model of stewardship. In fact, if anything, I think I am historically sort of a skeptic. And for, I guess, about the past 20 years or so that we've sat in this parish, I've often bristled at annual appeals for time, talent, and especially treasure. Father, forgive me.
I'll see you in the confession.
I always viewed it as somewhat of a burden and sort of preaching to the choir. I always thought as I'd be sitting out there, why are you telling this to us? Aren't the people assembled here the people who are most supportive of the parish? Then some years ago, I heard a story. It's actually not a religious story, but it was a story that got me thinking. And maybe it will give everyone a bit of a thought as well. It's a story about Thomas Edison, of all people, a great inventor. And I know people in my household have heard this story many times, so I asked them to bear with me on this. But it's a great little story, and I think there's a great lesson in it. And Edison had a great laboratory down in New Jersey. All his life's work was in it, all kinds of experiments, paperwork, and there was a terrific fire one night. It was huge, destroyed the building. And during the course of that fire, he called to his son and he said, "Son, go and get your mother. She's got to see this. She'll never see another fire like this again in her lifetime." His son was stunned by this. He thought it was odd that his father's life work was being destroyed, and he seemed excited about it. So he asked him, why? And Edison said, "It's a chance to begin anew. Everything in that building was holding me back." And I thought about that story because, of course, in Edison's case, it did hold him back because he went on to become a terrific inventor of many things after that. And I thought the lesson in that for me was what first appears to be a burden is so often an opportunity if you're willing to look hard enough. And that's what stewardship has been for me, especially when it comes to stewardship of time, because it has given me a chance to reevaluate my relationship with time. And time is split between home and work for most of us. And I've given that a careful look, and I've realized that over the years, you think you're in control. But many times you're not. You're pushed and you're pulled, you follow more than you lead, and you might not be going where you should be going. And so what stewardship of time has done for me is it's given me a chance to reevaluate that. And so it's changed many things, but just a few examples. I've learned that the Sabbath was created for us. We weren't created for the Sabbath. And that Mass is not an obligation. It is a celebration. And that prayer is not so much about petitioning as it is about listening. So I am deeply grateful to Father Bill and to this parish for giving me that opportunity and to find an opportunity in something that originally appeared to be a burden. And I would invite all of you to consider that when you're thinking about what contribution you want to make to the parish, that there really is a great opportunity for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Just stay right there. You don't be eager to depart. Each one of these people, when I asked them if they would share, automatically said yes. I'd be happy to. I'm honored to. And there are over 400 people who give their time, talent, and treasure to our parish to make us the church we are. And we need to all work together to do that. Some people are working very hard and need a break, and we're looking for people to step in and to work with them. I guarantee when you are in ministry here at Sacred Heart, you are going to meet some fabulous people, some wonderful people. I'm hoping that everybody received a stewardship packet in the mail, and that this week you'll take the time to read it. Don't just shove it in the corner, but take the time to read it. And pray to God, show me where I need to be, where I fit, and how I can assist in walking with others to make Sacred Heart the parish God says it ought to be. Some people have already said, I lost my packet, I don't know what I did with it. And so I brought packets here. And you don't have to admit that you lost it. You might say, it's for my neighbor or whatever. But if you don't have your packet, could you just raise your hand and let me give you one? Of course, nobody's going to admit. Okay, thank you, Kathy. Anybody else that doesn't have a packet so that you can pray for it? Okay, good. Oh, it's his. Oh, okay. See, that's easy enough to do. Okay, there you go. Anybody else not get a packet, or because it might have got lost in the mail or whatever too. We want to make sure everybody has a packet. And just take it home and take the opportunity to pray over it. And I really sincerely mean that. We asked you to pray for April and Chris and Rob. And they're praying for us when they come to church and when they work here and when they're involved in ministry. They pray for us all the time. And so I want to thank you personally on behalf of all of us for your willingness to share of your time, your talent, and your treasure here at Sacred Heart. Thank you both. Thank you all. Okay, now. Let us stand and offer up our prayers to God our Father.